Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it was a series of things over the course of probably 12 to 18 months where I had recognized that my standards had been dropping, but it was really the way that I was showing up. I had spent over 10 years building a business to create financial independence and security. I had been married, so I wanted to have some level of protection that I was providing. I'd finally achieved that after 10 years of building a business, and all of a sudden found that I was no longer excited to get up out of the bed in the morning. And I was looking forward to end of day more than beginning of day. What that meant was escaping the reality that I was in. And that was through alcohol, that was through food, that was through sugar, that was through recreational smoking of weed. And that really just led me to realize I'm escaping a life that I worked over 10 years to build. And at that point in time, I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and I had a marriage that was under 4 years. And I had worked and wanted that my whole life, and I could not figure out why, after achieving these things and having the ability to influence and impact and lead these people, that I was no longer excited to get out of bed in the morning. And I was doing the normal things. I was trying to stay healthy as I was providing for my family and running this business. And what that looked like for me was 5 or 6 days a week of checking the box. And the easiest form of training for me at the time was signing up for a group fitness class. And I signed up for Orange Theory. And I had been doing that 5 days a week, 1 hour HIIT style training, high intensity interval training, burning 600, 700, 800 calories in those sessions. I was fasting for 16 hours a day. So I thought I obviously had the flexibility to eat whatever I wanted. But one day after 8 months, they had a transformation contest. And this was going to be in March, and it was about 8 weeks. And I figured I was striking distance away from winning this thing. And the staff had asked me to go upstairs to take the before picture. And I kind of got nervous. I was like, wait, you're going to take the picture? I wanted to be able to control the lighting, and something in my head knew I don't really feel good about this. So I let him take the before picture, but I didn't even take my shirt off. I had a t-shirt on, I took that off, and I had a long sleeve shirt on, and I let him take the picture of me in that outfit. And when these guys turned around the camera and showed me this picture, I quickly realized I resembled a pear more than an aesthetic Greek god. And that was just like a light bulb of anger, of emotions. Like, this is what I look like. This is why I'm behaving the way that I'm behaving. And what I mean by that is, I wasn't treating my wife properly. I was annoyed, agitated, aggravated. I was short with my kids a lot. I was present, but I wasn't present. And it came down to me realizing that no matter how much money I had in the bank account, no matter the material things I tried to buy my happiness with, unless I felt good in my own skin, none of that mattered. And so I went on this mission of finding out what was going to work for me that was actually going to be sustainable, and more importantly, get me in a body that I was comfortable in. And that led me on the journey of doing research to really find out, as a man, 42, busy father, very little time, what can I invest my time and energy in that was actually going to give me the body I wanted with the energy I needed to sustain throughout the day. And that was the beginning of my phase to really go out and change my life. And I wanted to use training and nutrition as a piece of the puzzle to do that. Dude, everything. I grabbed at everything. That was one of the biggest problems. I was buying online programs, all these cookie cutter programs from these influencers. I had tried the calisthenics. I had tried the calisthenics body weight. I had tried the Orange Theory group fitnesses, the F45. I had tried CrossFit. I had tried running. I had tried all these things to just get in a physical condition that I was comfortable in my body. And then coupled that with different eating styles. I went vegan, I went paleo, I went keto, I went bulletproof, I went no carbs, I went fruit only. I did all these different things for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, and then would realize, I don't even know if this is working. My body's not changing. Why do I have these disciplines? Why am I not having the beer and the pizza? And then I throw the plan out the wayside, get back into my old habits quickly before 2 or 3 months would go by, and it was like, I need a new plan. That's what I need. Go online, I invest 70, 80, 100 bucks, sometimes a little bit more, buy a plan, get excited about it for 2 or 3 weeks, run it, and then again, no accountability, no structure, but no confidence and belief that my effort was going to produce the fruit that I was after. That was the biggest thing. As a guy who's busy with kids and running a business, I had little time. So I wanted to know that when I was investing that time, that I was actually going to get the result that I was after. And every one of those programs never made me feel like I was tracking to where I wanted to be 3, 6, or 12 months down the road. And so I went and really decided that there was a specific method out there, who were the best in the world at this. And I realized that bodybuilders, this was what they did. They sculpted physiques for a living. And the common denominator with all these bodybuilders was they trained a very specific way. And then they ate a very specific way. And they recovered a very specific way. And there were common supplementations that they consumed that allowed them to actually change their body composition. So the more I dove into that information, the more I recognized this is sustainable. This is something that doesn't have an endpoint. I can always keep progressing in this area, and I'll never get bored. I'll never hit a goal and say, okay, I lost the 20 pounds, now it's time to sabotage that success. And so I recognized that in order to do this right, I needed to validate myself on a set of habits daily that I can control, that'll make me feel good at the end of the day, because I did what I said I was going to do, but most importantly, didn't validate myself on an end goal, meaning I'll be happy when I lose the 30 pounds. I'll be happy when I get to 10%, because I knew myself. When I hit those goals, I quickly sabotaged it. And if I lost 15 pounds, over the next 3 to 6 months, I gained back 20 because I hit the goal. So I needed something that was going to prevent me or have guardrails this time that was going to allow me to really go deep and never have a goal that was achieved, but to have these micro goals throughout the day that I needed to master. So essentially, I found the master plan, and my job every day was to master that plan through hypertrophy style training, macro-based eating, low intensity or low impact cardio that was going to help me reduce my body composition, and smart supplementation. When I put those things together, it became a process of really mastering that routine, and that routine led to daily happiness. I felt good about myself because I was showing up for myself, and I hadn't done that in so many years. Man, that's such a big question. Number one, my business was successful, but I didn't enjoy showing up for it, mainly because I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. And in my marriage, if you want love and respect, it's hard to get it if you don't have it for yourself. So I spent the first 3 years of my marriage really not having love and respect for myself. So how could I ask somebody else to give that to me? Whether I was getting it or not, I refused to see it. It wasn't until I made a conscious decision to really invest in myself without the need of outside validation from my wife saying you look good, or desiring me, or coming on to me, or other people commenting or complimenting me. I knew this time that I needed to get to that place where I didn't need that. If it came, it was a benefit, but I was proud of the man in the mirror. And that was a process I needed to go through. And the more I dove into that process, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and I started with daily routines, the more I was able to kind of stand up tall. My shoulders went back. I looked in the mirror. I finally started taking pictures of myself, and I felt proud of the man that was showing up every day. So I knew that that was eventually going to impact the way that my wife received me, the way that I showed up for her, the way that I was present with her. And as I did that, this pattern set up these micro goals for me every day, where I had these meals every 4 to 5 hours. And I knew that it wasn't flavor I was after, but fuel. I wasn't seeking comfort. I was seeking objective. And so these meals really gave me guardrails throughout the day. Have a meal, I can lock in for 4 hours, be where my feet were, and dive into my business. Eat a meal, be where my feet are, dive into my passion and my business. And then at night, have a meal and be present with my family. I was getting 10 times more work done, enjoyable work, that left me room to not only scale that business more than it ever scaled the prior 5 years, but to also come up with the idea to launch Dad Bod Sculptors, and simultaneously, in parallel, run those other businesses and launch Dad Bod Sculptors with no real idea on how to even create an Instagram account. I like to say I had to figure out how to spell Instagram because I had no idea what it was, what a post was, a reel was, a story was. I just figured, why can't I just post and people see it? So I had to go through this process of learning all these new skills, but I was prepared because I had done it for training. I had done the hard work in pushing against resistance, squatting, building biceps, building chest. So by the time it came to put in the reps for filming or posting or scheduling content or spending time with my kids or spending time with my wife, I knew how to be present, and I knew how to actually get the reps in, and knew that I may not be great now, but if I just keep showing up, I'll get better and better. And that mindset came from doing the right thing with my training and my nutrition. Yeah, the mistakes that most men over 35, including myself, keep repeating is you're grabbing at the shiny red apple. There's so much information out there, right? Should it be keto? Should it be paleo? Should it be no carbs? Maybe I should fast. They keep seeing more information and they keep trying it. They don't stick to anything long enough to actually give themselves enough data to say, is this working for me? And most guys don't recognize that their muscle mass is decreasing after 35. So when you're fasting for 16 hours a day and you're already working with a slower metabolism, guess what? Your metabolism is even slower because it's holding on to the food that you consumed and it doesn't know when it's getting fed again. When it does get fed, it doesn't know what's coming down the chute and how it needs to digest, absorb, and eliminate that information, those foods to be able to be used as fuel. So your body's constantly playing defense to keep you alive, as opposed to getting on a system that works and supports your goals, both training, nutrition, cardio, supplementation, accountability, a way to calibrate weekly. Like, it's a system. Most people are looking for a new meal and training plan. And there's a million of them online. You can find those everywhere. But really, the guys that get it, worked for me, and it's worked for the hundreds of guys that I coached in my program, is we identified a system that works with their busy lifestyle. And when you recognize you have a schedule that you hold to on a consistent basis, it's a moving target, but you recognize that there are some daily non-negotiables that you can install in your day around training, around nutrition, around recovery, around sleep, around vices, then you control the controllable. And when you're able to control the controllable, you'd be amazed at how your body transitions from playing defense all day, inflammation, brain fog, low energy, all of a sudden turns back into a furnace like when you were 20 and now starts playing offense for you. That starts showing up everywhere. Your physique starts to change, your attitude starts to change, your energy changes, your relationship changes, your money, the way you look at money, the way you look at events that show up in your life. It all changes because you've decided to be conscious about going out there and raising your vibration through a series of habits and dialing in your habits and validating yourself on habits as opposed to your results. So the short answer is most guys try to validate themselves on a result, and either they never get to it because they don't stick to it long enough, or they do get to it and then they self-sabotage and bring in their old habits and they end up worse than when they start. Honestly, the most fulfilling part is impacting the man. The first 90 days, 6 months, depending on where the guy is coming from, my job is to help them remove themselves as the main problem. Most guys are their biggest enemy. So once we remove themselves out of the equation and we teach them simple habits on how to build themselves back up and believe in themselves again, then they start being able to impact and influence other men. And that's the most important thing, because when you change the life of a man and you make him become a better version of himself, that impacts who he is as a father. That impacts who he is as a husband. That impacts who he is as a leader in his community. That impacts who he is as an employer or an employer, because he's removed himself from his self-sabotaging ways and he's now able to serve. The second phase of that for these guys is once they remove themselves, people recognize their achievement. Hey, I see that you noticed you lost weight or you built muscle or you look different. And then what happens is they become curious about that individual's lifestyle. How did you do it? What did you do? How long did it take? Why did you do it? And if you're a man of faith or you're a man who's well-intended, the greatest gift you can do is influence somebody else, right, towards the right path. You cannot do that unless somebody is curious about your lifestyle. So you've got to create a set of habits and routines that lead to a better version of yourself. And once you do that, people become curious about your lifestyle. And when you're curious about your lifestyle, it gives you the power of influence. You can now share what works for you. Like I always say with kids, habits are not taught, they are caught. You can tell your kids what to do all day long, but 99% of them are going to pick up on what you do, not what you say they need to do. And that came from my own experience. And the same thing lies with how a man leads his life. They don't become curious until they see you have done something consistently over time and that you are not bending, that the old version of yourself is no longer present. And now they wonder how you did it. Because underneath, we all have a calling to serve a higher, bigger purpose that's more fulfilling. We always hear that little voice, but we never chase it. The men that actually decide to take action on that and do something about it, it becomes the most fulfilling thing in the world. And my example was, I started my own journey because I had such negative self-talk. I had such low self-esteem. I had so much insecurity. And I constantly was hearing this voice. You're not good enough. You're lazy, right? You say you're not going to drink and you drink. You say you're not going to eat sugar and you do, right? You say you're not going to watch porn and you watched it. And you start feeling disgusted with yourself. And it isn't until you remove yourself out of the way to become a better version of yourself that other people recognize. Once I started recognizing people were noticing, it just raises the standard. People have recognized I made a difference. And now all of a sudden the standard has been raised because people are looking at you and they're wondering and they don't want to see you go backwards. So you just slowly start raising the standard in your own life. And when you get yourself out of your own way, the world becomes your oyster. So the greatest fulfillment for me was getting out of my own way, which I started this journey to just get out of my own way, started this journey just to be happy, but I recognized that wasn't the purpose. That test was to be a testament. The purpose was to go and help other men. And it becomes this ripple effect. One man gets himself out of the own way, solves his problem, and then he's able to impact other men. That's been the most rewarding thing, hands down for me, is watching one leader of a household at a time completely change his life and how he shows up for his kids, for his wife, for his business, for his employer, for his community, for his church, everything. It's the greatest feeling in the world. And that becomes addicting. And that hence is why I went and started Sculptors.